We're constantly trying to think of new things. So we're thinking about hosting a con next
Oh, that's
year.
awesome. Yeah.
There's just a bunch of stuff. So, like I said, there's no shortage of stupid ideas. So it's just which ones stick, which ones are worth struggling.
I just went to a con here, a local one in Newmarket, so just like north of Toronto, like an hour. And it's a guy
Okay.
who runs a shop, and he's got a background in publishing and all that stuff too. And he runs this like awesome shop. So he put together a con, but it was like comics focused, like it was just comics,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
like it had a few problems because it's year one, so there's some learning things, like just in
For
terms of
sure.
like location, and it was outdoors in Canada in October, so it was cold, and
Okay.
right, so like
Yeah.
we just didn't get the turnout we had hoped. But all that said, wonderful experience. Like I really had such a
Yeah.
good time there. So I think that kind of experience of speaking with people who are in the same level, having the same problems, the same troubles, like we don't get that so much anymore, because I don't know about the cons in your area, but in ours, it's all anime and cosplay
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything but comics, right?
It's toy, yeah, like that, and sometimes it works in your benefit because you're like, oh, you look around, and you're like, there's two other comic people
Yeah,
here. It's me and other people, and so it's okay. Maybe there's not as much quote unquote competition as much as I don't necessarily say we're competing, but then again, you are, because if one dude has $10, he can't
yeah, you
buy
gotta
all your
pick one. Yeah.
comics. You're competing technically, so it is nice in that regard, but at the same time, it draws a very specific crowd, and that's something that we notice is like the 12-year-old isn't asking mommy for Artificial One. He's asking mommy for the Pikachu
That's right.
plushie that he could get on Amazon for
Yeah.
$4. So, but he paid $30 at a con. So that stuff blows my mind,
Oh
by the
yeah.
way. And so I'm watching it happen, but it just is what it is. That's the environment that typical cons now. And we had a very similar thought. I was like, what if we just went back to the grassroots of just what a Comic Con was? It's a comic. I would like to do comics. So yeah, we started looking into that, and we might have some prospects coming next year. That'd be really cool. The real fast though, the most promising prospect was I went to a Dave and Buster's. Wait, what is today? Monday. I went Saturday with my family, and we went super early. We went at 10 a.m. when it opened, so there was almost no one there, which was really nice. And so we're just playing games and having fun. And then I see they have a convention hall. They have like basically a conference room, so not very big, but big ish. And so I peek my head in there, and I'm like, you know what? I could do something with this. We could make a very small con at a Dave and Buster's. I was like, I wonder what that would be like, because people would come already. They would then maybe filter in if they wanted to check it out. I was like, that might be interesting, because it's basically built in an area that already has foot traffic. It naturally wonder what that would be like. So anyway, that was my once again my brain just not turning off ever. So I just immediately went, I'm going to make a con at a Dave and Buster's.
Yeah,
It's like, who's ever said that ever? And do you know what a Dave
yeah,
and
we got
Buster's
him here.
is? Okay, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. I realized I was saying this, and I was like, there might be.
No, no.
Okay, so try and make a long story short, that was my main idea. I am definitely a fake it till you make it kind of guy. So I just went to the front desk. I was like, hey, is your manager here? Like the general manager? And they're like, yeah. Is there a problem? I was like, no, I just want to talk to him for a minute. Some very nice lady comes out from the back, the general manager of this building, and I just talked to her like some dude. But I'm like, hey, I'm interested in throwing a Comic Con. Basically, I give her a nice
Yeah,
soft
yeah.
pitch. I said, you have that conference room over there. It could work. I was like, have you ever thought of doing something like that? Do you think it would be worth it? Yada, yada. And she goes, no, that would be cool. She goes, I actually like that idea. We've never done anything like that. I've never seen anything like that. Not at a Dave and Buster's. She goes, I actually go to cons. I'm a bit of a
Nice.
nerd.
Yeah.
And she did that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. And so she's like, that would be actually really fun. I was like, cool. So that was immediately, I got really excited. I was like, okay, sweet. She's on
Yeah,
board. Like, she's
that's awesome.
interested. The next thing she said though was like, that conference hall is too small though. I'm like, okay. And she goes, what if you just use the entire dining area?
Nice.
Like right here. And she walks over and she goes, this whole area you could use. And what we could do, and she literally starts just
That's
planning it.
awesome.
Yeah, she goes, you could table, so all your tables are here on this side and this side. And then she goes, and then also because this dining hall has two openings, it's literally just a pass through. So people can walk through and then out the back. That's really cool. And then she's like, and then we can save the other dining hall for just people if they want to eat. So this would put business into the Dave and Buster's. This could be a win-win. You're getting like
That's
super
awesome.
excited, which is really cool. And so she gave me the card for the sales manager of all of Florida to work out a deal. And I'm like, who am I? You know what I mean? It is one of those fake it till you
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
situations. But I'm currently emailing the sales rep for the entirety of Florida, Dave and
That's amazing.
Buster's, to throw a con. I don't know what I'm doing, but
I'll cut
I
that part
do
out.
think, yeah, I do, I do think a fake it till you make it attitude, it can work out sometimes in your favor. So hopefully this is one of those times. But I do want to focus it though,
Yeah,
like you said, I want it to be primarily comic books. I have some like 3D printer friends that maybe I'll have a 3D printer, some 3D printer
sure.
ones,
But yeah,
maybe some toys, maybe some collectibles. I have a local comic book shop that I wouldn't mind having them there. That way they can just have
of
their
course.
comics.
Yeah,
But
as long as
otherwise,
there's
yeah,
some
comics.
crossover of the audience, I think is the key thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's become more segmented than ever with all of these cons. So
Yeah,
having ones that like you read comics, but maybe you collect toys and stuff too, that's fine.
sure.
We still want you here.
Yeah.
Not that you don't want anybody. It's tough when you have a table and everyone's there for. The one I keep bringing up is like Pokemon cards, and these guys are throwing
Yeah.
hundreds of
No, yeah,
dollars
that's
on
it.
Pokemon cards and won't spend $5 on my comic.
Exactly. Or if we're stepping on toes here, let's go. I'm just kidding. But or the print vendors. Those that's cool and all, but it's just print and it's not their original art and stuff like that. So that's like an interesting,
Quasi
except for the
legal.
ones that it is
Yeah.
their interest. Yeah, yeah. And I see people just buy them all, and I'm like, interesting. It's quite literally interesting. Like, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that kind of stuff is something you have to study when you're looking to do a con, and you're like, okay, this is what sells, this is what puts butts in sin. You're like, oh, so it's just figuring that out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a though,
No, somebody's got to be
maybe.
right. Yeah, it might
Yeah.
be worth talking to if you follow Wayside Comics on
Okay.
Instagram. That's the guy who ran that shop, and yeah, he just did his con, comics focused. Did it in a brewery, so a little different than Dave and Buster's, but
Nice.
same concept, like a
But yeah, similar.
right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure he's very friendly. I'm sure he could give you some tips and pitfalls and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wayside,
Sounds good.
Wayside Comics. And if you're ever in the area, I highly recommend going. It's a wonderful shop. But
Okay.
yeah,
Noted. I'll look for it.
but yeah, no, it's one of those things like we keep doing these cons and stuff, and it's just less and less. I think the last one Roberto and I were both at, we were the only comics people. Or no, there was one other.
Interesting.
There was
Okay.
one other. Steve, I'm sorry, he was on the podcast recently. He was there too. But yeah, so
Yeah.
there's maybe three of us there, and we were all separated. Was the worst part. So if you did like comics, like you may not even pass us. Right? It's very
Yeah.
strangely set up. That one was a wrestling show. It felt
Oh, I've done
yeah,
those.
where it
Yeah.
was like they were just there to get autographs from whomever, not to look at comics. Even though it's called Comic Con, it was all wrestling.
Yeah, that's another thing. Is like it's Comic Con has been to basically mean any kind of pop culture
Yes,
event,
yes,
which is fine. It's a little
yeah,
misleading, at least for people who actually understand that. Like I go to a Comic Con for comics and collectibles and
yeah.
that. So for me, when I read Comic Con, that's what I understand. But for the layperson, that's just what Comic Con
Yeah,
means now.
it
It
means
means
everything.
I'm gonna dress up as Miles Morales and go buy
Yeah,
Pikachu. And it's like, okay, which is cool. I like seeing you there, but you know what? I'll do that. But yeah, it's an interesting change of
yeah,
pace.
yeah. It's different. So I went to San Diego this year, and at least that one gets a bad rap for not being comics focused, and yet I found that to be one of the more comics focused shows that I've been to. Um, yeah, it's strange how they approach it in terms of indies. Like they split you
Yeah,
up on different parts of the floor. So there's three
yeah,
different indie sections, but
interesting.
there's more comics there than anything. Like it was interesting in
Yeah,
that way.
I do want to do one of those big ones at some point, like New York, San Diego. I don't know. We're hesitant to. That's another thing. Like I've seen some people do those shows, like
Mm,
at them, and not like putting anything down, but I'll see what they have, and I was like, oh, they have 2 or 3
yeah,
books. You know what I mean? But they're taking that big shot of, okay, I'm at San Diego Comic Con, and then we have a decent library already, and I'm hesitant. And I'm like, man, that's a big investment. You know what
yeah,
I mean? So I do think we need to try and bite the bullet at some point because I also just want to go because it'd be
yeah.
cool.
They're
But
fun.
I
They're
don't
a
know.
lot of fun. Yours is what? I guess MegaCon's the biggest one. Yeah,
MegaCon. which is a nightmare to get into.
Yeah.
Like it's something that where they're like, if you haven't been in business for more than 3 or 4 years, yeah, if you haven't been to MegaCon before or tabled before, good luck. If you haven't done it before, you need to at least have some form of backing or presence or
Hmm.
fandom. That way they can look at you and go, okay, we'll let you table. So like it's, I don't know when, if and when we'd ever be able to go to MegaCon. We'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah, that's one of our
Yeah,
goals.
it's not dissimilar. We have it's Fan Expo Canada, so same organization putting on MegaCon,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's the same thing. That show's huge. So it's like 150,000. I think MegaCon's the only one that's it's second to MegaCon, but of the fan
Wow.
expos.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and same problem. Like you can apply and they take your money and they hold it for 6 months, and then they might tell you actually no thanks. We have bigger folks coming. So we'll see. Roberto and I
Hmm.
applied for this year, and we're going to try to do a live version of this as a panel, and we'll see.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
maybe it'll be really cool. But
Cool.
like, who knows?
See, like that's one thing I miss is that we use a lot of artists primarily because they're
Mhm.
incredible. Like I said, Gabriel's from Brazil. The most recent one I did, Our Monsters, she's also from Brazil. My colorist is from Mexico. So, but they're just phenomenal. So that's the only reason they're good. And but at the same time, it does bum me out every once in a while whenever I go to a con. I'll see like the artist of the book or whatever will be
Yeah,
there and actually drawing stuff. Man, that's so cool. I really to the point where I tell Gabriel all the time. I was like, one day, man, after we make it big, I will spend the $3,500 to fly you out here, and we're gonna have you sit at a table. We'll go to San
yeah,
Diego. So that's like a pipe dream of mine, like pie in the sky one day. But it is cool having, yeah, like Roberto or like having this live is really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It would be really cool. Yeah, it's fortunate because we so Roberto and I met on what was it, comics launch, the Tyler James thing, and it
Yeah,
just happened to be that I'm always loud about I'm in Canada, I'm in Toronto, blah blah blah. And
yeah,
Roberto's like, hey, you're near me. Let's meet up.
yeah.
Right?
There you go.
So it was serendipitous in that way that we're relatively close to each other. Like he's an hour and a bit away from me, but that's doable. And then we still,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
not
we're
bad.
all at all the same shows and all that together. And like I said, we'll table together at all the locals and that. Yeah, but it was a chance meeting. But yeah, like you, everyone else is from afar, like Brazil, Argentina,
Yeah.
Italy, all over. I've worked with folks. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Roberto's the closest
One.
I've worked with somebody, like
Yeah.
physically speaking, geographically.
Yeah. We have a my refuge book coming out. I have a guy. So I the main artist is in Brazil again. I don't know what it is. I love Brazil. I love their artists. They're all unique. They have a really cool style. They're fun. I'm learning Portuguese. That way, it's easier for me to
Oh,
communicate with
nice.
them. Yeah, it's been fun. So I'm all in on Brazil. So that said, though, the main artist is from Brazil, but I had a secondary cover done, uh, or a limited edition cover done by this guy in Ohio who actually lives basically right over the border between Pennsylvania and Ohio, which is technically only like 30 minutes from where we stay typically in Pennsylvania. So he's not local to
Sure.
me per se, but he's local to where I go. So if I ever wanted to go to Pennsylvania, I could meet up with him and hang out with him or talk to him. But anyway, he did a secondary cover, or a limited edition cover that was in the Calvin and Hobbes
Hmm.
style because it's very fitting for the idea behind the story. And then I had the idea, and I want a dream sequence to happen at some point, and I think I'm going to have him do the dream sequence in that style. That way, it's pulled away from the regular style and might look kind
Hmm.
of stuff. And I want to give him some business and put him in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
book because he did a killer job with the cover. Anyway, all that said, if that ends up happening, then he is tied to some of our works. And that gives me more incentive to maybe do a con up in Ohio, maybe ask him to table with
Hmm.
us. And so I'm trying to think in the long run there too. But he's the closest I have to like an artist I
Right
work
on.
with. So maybe it's
Yeah,
someday. We'll
yeah,
see.
yeah. That's yeah. It's so much better when you can actually like see each other face to face, and that it's at the same time like it's opened up. Like this wouldn't be possible if not for being able to connect with people all over the world. As great as it is to get to meet and hash things out, yeah, it's just it's you have so much more options out there, right? In terms of who
Yeah,
you can work with.
it's crazy when you really think about it. And then even the idea of just reader base. Like I remember I was looking at Global Comics and like the third most popular region that we're in is, I think, Indonesia. And I'm like, what? But it's cool
Yeah,
though. I'm like, okay, hey guys in Indonesia, what's up?
yeah.
Should I translate my?
Yeah, yeah.
It's only 5 people, but still,
Oh, that's amazing.
it's interesting. Just that in of itself is really cool to be like, oh, there are people in Indonesia that speak a language I don't speak at all, that have such different life experience, background, culture, and they're reading stuff I made. I was like, it's trippy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's really cool when you think about it. And so that is another cool thing, is being able to come in contact with Brazil artists and work with them, mix them with Mexican colorists, and then just really
yeah, yeah.
cool. It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's like a whole new world of things. It's just the ability to find people from all over, and that it's like it speaks more to the community of like comics, that
Yeah.
you can deal with somebody halfway around the world, and they're not gonna take your money and run. It happens. It happens.
Yeah. It does
But
happen.
more often than not, like I again, knock on wood, I've yet to have a bad experience. Like,
Yeah. I've only had one so far. It was one of those, I'm cutting and I basically was like, hey man, I appreciate all the hard work you put in. I'm just going to table this for a little bit and I'll get back to you if I'm interested in pursuing it
I,
further. That was just the nicest way of saying, hey bro, you're not doing anything you're supposed to do. So that was the only bad experience I've had. Otherwise, it's been only
yeah,
great.
I'll mention. Yeah, so that has happened. I've certainly had
Yeah. I
that
mean,
where
it's
it's
going to,
okay. I'm not even getting past the first bit here, so let's maybe not
yeah.
continue this.
Yeah, yeah, that'll happen. But otherwise, yeah, it's great. It's really cool working with other people and getting to know them. And like with Gabriel, we just talk. Sometimes we'll jump online and we'll be doing we'll be discussing pages, and then next thing you know, we're talking about horror movies, this, that, and the other. And it's really cool seeing the pop culture references that he knows in Brazil. And then we even did a game where, or not a game, but like I kept saying, "What about this movie?" And apparently, it's not apparently. I feel stupid, but it's named completely differently. Not just like a translation. Not like The Grudge is whatever Portuguese is for The Grudge. It's a
Yeah,
word. It's just mean spirited is like the name. I was like, oh, what? Okay.
yeah.
So that's fun. We're like working on, but yeah, it's just fun
It,
stuff you don't normally get to do.
yeah, and it's funny because Argentina and Spain speak Spanish. They even translate the movies differently.
Yeah,
You have totally different titles.
That's so funny.
which is really funny. And then I can't. I see. It's annoying that I can't remember. But there was one movie where he said, "Oh, do you mean this?" And he said the title, and I was like, "That's a much better name." I was like, "Why did we name it this way?" I was like, "Your name's better,"
Yeah,
and that was pretty funny. I don't remember what it was though.
it's different creatives and
Weird.
different markets, right? That they know how to
Yeah,
speak to their people a little
yeah,
better.
yeah. I guess Americans like bad
Yeah.
titles. I don't know. And Brazilians like good ones.
We're well in Canada. We just get the American market, but so I say we.
Yeah,
It's the royal we. But,
yeah.
we just follow trends.
North America, you
Yeah,
know
North
that.
America. We're all the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, we like trends. Like whatever. If we're going with one word titles for the next 2 years, then everything's gonna have a one word title, whether it fits the story or not. That's how titles are expected to be. Until one person breaks it, it's okay. Now we're doing title subtitle, and it's punny, and then like.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and then it slowly devolves, and then next thing you know, you're back to
Yeah,
one word
we're
title,
always
and then
there seems
yeah,
to be like trends even in titles. Like we just can't. It's if you look at the way trailers are cut, they all have a very there's like seasons to them almost. Oh, this is the way we're doing trailers now.
yeah,
Okay, um, it's very
yeah.
interesting
That's
that
yeah,
way.
that's true. And speaking of one word titles, I'm in that trend. I love one
Yeah,
word titles, and I know that sometimes I don't know. I don't think it's just what I like. So if you can encapsulate something in one word, sweet. So that's what I tend to do. Like so I've written artificial, which I think encapsulates what I'm trying to say for the title anyway. The superhero one about dementia or Alzheimer's interchangeably is called Sundown. I'm making Refuge. I think I have two other ones that are in the works that are both one word titles. I just like one word
hey,
titles.
that's you know what I envy
Um,
that. I go the opposite way. Like
yeah.
what?
Well, I like yours too, though. I like yours are good. And then the other one I came up with was this, and I'm not going to spoil it because I really like the idea and I don't want anyone taking it. And eventually I'll make it. It's one of those, it's in the
Sure.
back of my mind. But this it's called Nana's Love and Crafts. It doesn't roll off
No,
the
that's a
tongue
tough
as
one.
much as I would like.
That's a
Huh?
tough one. Yeah, I would stumble over that.
It doesn't roll off the tongue as much as I'd like, so I'm going to workshop it. But it's definitely not a one word title. Like I have a very specific way I want it to
Mhm.
read. So that's another one. I'll break the habit eventually.
Yeah, oh, that's
but
fair.
for now,
I
one more
feel
titles.
like, so one thing I fail to do, and I should do more often, is read the titles out loud over and over so that I can make sure I can
Yes.
say it. Because let me tell you,
Yeah.
Instant Ink Comic Book Podcast is very hard for me to say.
Yeah. And when you have to rattle it off right in the beginning, well,
Yeah.
everybody, the instant
I hear, and then I do my
take two.
Substack and I read that. I read that. So I have a podcast version of my Substack. Same thing, constantly saying Instant Ink Comic Book Podcast. I have to say it. It's nice and slow because otherwise it's all garbled.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
No,
if I
I
have any
gotcha.
regrets.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, yeah. No, I mean, I like that's the thing. Is like I look at Instant Ink Comic Book
It's a great.
Podcast.
I'm really happy. Like, I credit Roberto for the title, but I regret not pushing back on it because I didn't realize that I'm
No, I
saying
like
it so much.
So like literally the only thing I would say I know it's not necessarily preferable, but a lot can be inferred when it comes to the title. So you could just call it Instant Ink.
Yeah,
That's it. Or comic book podcast, nothing after, just Instant
I
Ink.
could. I always.
Even that kind of thing.
That's the part that I stumble over, right? The comic book podcast I could say over and over. It's Instant Ink. Instant Ink. Yeah.
Time, yeah, you're right.
It just
Instant
becomes
Ink.
Ink. One word.
T,
Yeah.
that T to the I is
That's
hard.
right.
Instant Ink.
So
yeah.
that's,
I don't know. Never mind. You guys are screwed.
we bought in now. This is, I don't even know what episode
You're all
this is,
in,
40
man.
something. It's, yeah. We're stuck.
Here, at least you're not in my shoes, which I don't know if I even want this out there, but I like branding similarly. I like trying to make sure things are quippy and like memorable. So like it's easy, rolls off the tongue. It's not too hard to figure out or anything like that. I feel like it's easy to remember. So I was happy with landing on that until I realized that the acronym for Bentbox Comics is BBC, and then I was slightly upset by that.
That's
so
some bad search results if you don't have your safe search on.
that was a big whoopsie. And that's why I made sure I was like, okay, our website is not going to be bbc.com. It's going to be bentboxcomics.com.
Yes. Yeah, you got to spell that out.
All of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But yeah. I'm in a similar boat. I get it. Naming things is hard.
Yeah, and it's sometimes like, yeah, I like the title of Instant Ink. I'm very happy with it. I hate saying
I like it too.
It's the hang. I'll live with it. It's of the problems
Yeah.
one can have. It's a minor one.
Yeah, it's not bad. I like
Yeah,
it too.
thank you. And Roberto got a good logo for it too. So I think it all worked out.
Yeah, no, the logos. Yeah, it's solid.
Right? Quickly
like
recognizable.
And I love the concept. That's also just really just what we're doing right now. It's really cool. So it definitely stands out.
Yeah, Roberto's doing it with his hands full now. This is a theme.
This is one of the good things of the digital, that I don't have to hold the paper with my other hand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't draw with two hands, so the fact that you're able to pull this off,
yeah,
one-handed.
Man, I used to be able to draw. My dad was he was an inker for Marvel.
Oh, wow.
And if anyone's seen me anywhere, they would have heard this 100 times because that's just it's my origin story. So deal with it. But anyway, my dad was an inker for Marvel for a while. I used to be very good at drawing. Very good for my age. I would draw like caricatures of movie characters that I liked whenever we watch a movie. I just drew all the time because I was around him. He drew all the time. He ended up leaving the family, so it's a fun story. But he left when I was like 7 or 8, and I literally just stopped drawing and stopped reading comics. I stopped doing everything that was involved with him, and then I literally lost drawing. Now I know I could spend 30 hours a week and get back to drawing, as many people know, and I'm sure you all and listeners and everyone. Life gets in the way after a certain point, and I'm like, I don't know if I have the time to invest in that anymore. But it's one of my very few regret, you know what I mean, that I didn't just continue drawing. I just dropped it because I used to be able to draw.
Yeah, that's fair.
Very well, and now I can't at all.
It's almost like you have to pick a lane, right? Like, because I didn't have that history. That's so there wasn't a point where it's if I continue this, I'm gonna. I wasn't a great artist, nor am I today. But yeah, it was like, do I want to learn how to do all this properly, or do I want to learn how to write properly? So I went that direction, like I went in the film
Yeah.
school direction. But still, my plan was
I mean, that's
writing.
cool. Yeah.
That's where I wanted to get, and then so the drawing and all that stuff went by the wayside. But yeah, so for me, it came to a point where you got to pick which way you're gonna go, and I figure my time is better spent honing my writing than trying to pick up a skill that I never really like thoughtfully developed. I'm always jealous
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. I'm
I'm
with
always
you.
jealous.
Me too. And to the point where, remember how we said comics were so stinking expensive?
Yes.
Once again, they deserve the money,
Now that
but
Roberto's not here, we
it'd
could
be
be
a lot.
on.
Yeah. Everyone except for Roberto deserves the
Yeah.
money, but at the same time, it would be really nice if I could
Yes.
do it. You know what I mean? And so at that point, you're just spending time, which is obviously very important. And as you get older, that's honestly been my biggest thing. Is I've noticed time is it's much more money, 10 times over. I'm not that old, but I'd much rather have time
Yeah.
than money. This is how it's been for me. Uh, so time is valuable, but at the same time, man, it would have saved me a pretty penny. But
Yeah.
that's all right. I'll save it to them. They know what they're doing. They're good at pretend like I know what I'm doing, and we're just gonna make
Yeah,
some comics.
exactly. This is the thing. It's. I always think if I could draw it myself, then that would save me. But at the same time, I'm again, as long as you're financially capable of doing it, you can do more than one
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
at a time. If you're drawing it, that's
Which is kind of where we're
right.
at.
Like
Yeah,
Roberto's the example with Voyager. Until he draws Voyager, it is incomplete. Like it is, you're
exactly.
stuck
Yeah,
until he's drawn it. That's it. That's the project he's on. Where with myself, like I have 3 active projects right now, all with different artists,
yeah,
right? So I don't have to. I don't have to wait, or I don't have to focus on getting this out on a certain time. It's with who it is, and now I'm working on the 4th project and the 5th project. So as a
yeah.
writer, you're
Rather
spoiled
be
in
in my
that way, right?
spot. Yeah, I agree because I do have, and to our earlier point of just sometimes your brain doesn't turn off. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I have a notepad with
Oh yeah,
hundreds of
yeah.
ideas, and so I can pick. I can be like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
this one now, and I found an artist for that one, so I'll start that one too. Yeah, as long as you're financially able to, it's nice. It's more freeing because you can be more creative in different
Yeah,
ways at the same time, which is refreshing to be able to do that because that's what I was working on a artificial, which is supposed to be like this. It does have some horror elements to it, but like a sci-fi, post-apocalyptic comedy. There's a lot of tie-ins I'm doing with it just because I'm
yeah,
having fun. But then I ended up writing Sundown alongside it, mainly because Sundown's much more somber and psychological horror based. But that's the cool part about it is
yeah.
okay, I'm gonna write some jokes, and now something terrible is gonna happen over here, and I can use that or those 2 parts of my brain, which is just fun. Like you said, we're spoiled in that way.
Yeah. And then you mentioned too being a little more entrepreneurial in that sense, like that
Yeah,
lends itself to the writing side of things. Because if you have that, you're already in a better place than a lot of writers. Because a lot of writers don't want to do that. They're like, I just want to tell my
yeah,
stories, and I want someone to take it and sell it to everybody for me.
yeah.
Where if you have that, both sides of it, where you're willing to sit on a podcast for an hour and 45 minutes so far, and right, and talk about
And
whatever.
dude, I'm in. So behind the little BTS for everyone, I'm on a fast right now. I've been fasting all day. I am so freaking tired. So you know what? I'm putting in the
You are.
work right now. I know you can't tell, but I'm putting in the work because I'm 2 minutes. As soon as this ends, I'm going to be passed out on my bed. But I'm excited. I like being here though. It's fun. I'm an extrovert, so I get energy from talking with
Yeah.
people and hanging out. So this is fun, but it's going to be very short lived. Just so everyone knows.
Well, I
I'm here.
appreciate you sticking around. We're gonna whip Roberto to draw faster when he gets back.
No, it's fine. I'm having fun. I like it. Like you said, we're talking shop and it's enjoyable.
That's
Like you said, the entrepreneurial side of it and having that. Yes, it's nice, but at the same time, like I find myself wanting to go, man, I really want to now, but I need to make some social media posts. Let me cut this trailer. Let me, and then next thing I know, I haven't written anything in 2 weeks. And that's where I'm at currently. I haven't sat down with my laptop in about 2 weeks, which then you feel like
yeah.
crap after that, honestly, because you're like, I have things I want to write, and then whenever an idea pops into my head, which happens during those 2 weeks, I'll mark it down on my notepad or whatever on my phone, try and get back to it later. But yeah, it's just you get bogged down by trying to do those extra things to where, yeah, I would love to hire someone to do it
Mm-hmm.
for me, but yeah, not quite to that point yet. Maybe
Yeah,
someday.
I'm with you
But
there.
yeah,
Like the second somebody I can go on Fiverr and get someone that even edit these podcasts, I would happily let them do
yeah,
that. Right now,
yeah,
yeah. So it's the thing that I'm doing to save the money, and same with the newsletter and all that business. I'm editing those like podcasts I
mm-hmm.
record down, and yeah, it's all work that isn't the actual writing. But again, if you have a mind for it, you're in better shape than a lot of people. But
Yeah. I know it needs to be done, so like I'm going to do
yeah,
it. But it does start leaning into that realm of this is work
yep,
now. So that's one of those things where it needs to be a hustle, it needs to be a struggle in some way, shape, or form if you're going to try and make it a bit like a living, whatever you want to call it. Because God bless those people who just do it for the
yeah,
art. I do that to a certain extent with the writing just because I have so many sticking stories I want to
hmm,
tell, and I get such joy out of seeing other people read it, and it's a creative outlet for myself, so I have to do it. I can't not do something like create. But then at the same time, I can't afford to keep creating as much as I want to, so I'd much rather figure out a way to fund my creations. So it's that real gentle balance you have to find. I don't know.
yeah. It's tough. It's really tough. It's like a necessary evil, right? If you don't sell yourself,
Yeah.
then nobody's gonna read all the stuff you're working on. So
Yeah.
it has to be done. And like you said, until you can afford to pay someone else to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on that right now. To be completely honest, I'm trying to figure
Yeah,
that out because I there's a lot I want to do, and I think we're getting to a point where maybe we can figure something like that out. But yeah, that is the goal. That way you can get back to just writing and
yeah.
stuff.
Well, that's the thing, right? If you get more of that time back, then you get more time to create even more, and then it becomes kind of like a flywheel,
Yeah,
right? That's the ideal.
that's the
Yeah,
hope. Yeah,
but in the meantime, but even then, being in the
yeah,
trenches and understanding how all of this works, and it saves you from even not even just getting taken advantage of, but like knowing where to steer things because you've done it, right? It's definitely a benefit so that if you do ever get to a point that you can contract a lot of this stuff out, you can say, this is how I would have done it. This is what I'm expecting
yeah.
to see through you. It,
That's another thing I have a hard time, and even my partner John can probably attest to this. Whether he can attest to it like knowingly or not, because maybe he doesn't notice how much I micromanage. But there's a lot of times where I know what I want. You
yep.
know what I mean? Like for the brand, for the company, for my books, for the cover of his books sometimes, and that's just how my brain works. Though I go, oh man, the logo
Hmm.
here. I think so, and there's things like that where I have a hard time giving that kind of stuff up. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? Like, yeah, you take creative free here, do whatever you want with it. Mainly because I know what I want. I know what looks good and what the
Yeah.
vision is. But I've had a decent amount of practice doing that when it comes to making comics, though, because I've done that with my artists. Like Gabriel, there's been so many times where I say, hey, man, you got full reign on
Hmm.
this page. Almost feels lazy, but at the same time, I'm doing it intentionally. I'm doing it like, hey, I know it looks good. I know when I say 4 panels of a fight scene where really all I want is this type of progression, I'm not going to give you any specifics. I'm not going to say uppercut into a flying kick into the. No, do something cool
Yeah.
here. All you need to know is it needs to start
Hmm.
here. And I give him creative freedom. That has only been good. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I don't think I've ever had a moment where I was like, oh man, you really missed the mark here.
Yeah.
No, I trust him. I know he knows what looks good, and so that's where I've been doing better at it. But otherwise, I do have a hard time micromanaging, and
Yeah.
like you said, yeah, you know what you want. Yeah,
Yeah. It's tough. It's very tough to figure out that balance for sure. But again, if you want to grow, you have to release some of the responsibility and
yeah,
all that business. It's tough. It's tough. And It's one of those. It's like a champagne problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. I don't know if you're familiar. I don't know. This probably isn't PC anymore. But one of my favorite accounts back in the day was something called. There's two of them. One was called First World
Hmm.
Problems. It was like a
Yeah,
meme
yeah,
page. It just cracked me up. But it's that
yeah.
kind of stuff. It's like what is it? I can't even think of them. But they're just so outrageous. The car I wanted to use for my Tuesday car doesn't have any gas, so now I have to take my
Yeah,
Wednesday
yeah,
car. And it's just silly stuff. But it's just like a guy really
yeah,
sad
yeah.
looking out a window. But those always crack me up. But yeah, it is really like a problem
It's
kind of
like I
deal.
want to do all the work, but I can't. Like I have to
Yeah,
hire
yeah,
out
yeah.
because I'm
Oh,
doing so well.
boo
Yeah.
hoo. Yeah. I try not to. Yeah, I don't really. I have that mentality with myself though. So that way, no one gets mad at me. That is my mentality with myself as well. It's like, hey, shut up. You got it. You got it good. A lot better than
Yeah, we're
others.
all
You know.
human. You can put someone in the
Yeah.
best scenario and they'll find something to vetch about. So that's
Oh yeah,
that's bound to happen,
for
right?
sure.
But yeah, it's again, it's nice to know even what your limitations are, like mentally speaking, in that sense. That it's I know I have a hard time
Yeah,
dealing with this problem, so at least when you get there, you have somewhat of a strategy of how to
yeah. That's something that I've told my wife, and she helps me. But I do think that I'm very probably to a fault at some point. But I know. All right, I'm talking too much. I'm micromanaging too much. It's a bit of a anxiety type thing where you get
Yep.
yourself, which I'm sure most people have. But yeah, I'm very self-aware
Yeah,
of that.
especially
So I
in
try my best to curb it.
fields, right? Like folks tend to be more self-aware in that sense, right? Because you're especially when you're writing and all that. Like the whole thing is you're trying to put yourself in the heads of others and have some empathy.
Yeah,
So not be self-aware and to try to have empathy for others is like you know what I
true.
mean. They wouldn't go together. So
Yeah,
of course you
yeah, that's
overanalyze
true.
yourself because you're analyzing yourself like you would your
All the time.
characters, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it
Yeah,
goes. How do you? I had a question for you as a writer. How do you come up with your stories? And the main reason why I ask is my partner John and I differ so much in this
sure.
regard, and I'm not sure why I it works the way it does with me. But I literally come up with stories by coming up with the title
Hmm.
first. So the title is so I came up with artificial just by the term
Yeah.
artificial, and then I extrapolated from that what I wanted to do with it. Same with Sundown, same with Refuge, Nana's Loving Crafts, which is the terrible title I mentioned earlier, which I still like it. It's got some quirkiness to it, but that was one where that was the title came first. I have so many things where I could probably pull them up, but like a Google Doc where it's literally crumpet and biscuits or some stupid, it'll just be the title and then parentheses need more ideas. That's all it is. It's like I have the
Okay.
title, like I know what I want to call this story, but I don't even know what the story
Yeah.
is. And that's how I operate. And I know that's not right. Something's wrong
I
there.
don't know if it's not right. I've heard of similar things before where the title can drive you. I'm not that person.
Yeah. John isn't either. He was telling me his whole process, and I was like, that sounds exhausting. But
I wouldn't
yeah,
say mine is exhausting. I usually have a scene in mind, right? I see something somewhere, and then I get such a vivid idea of what would happen in this scene. Start thinking of like characters in that scene, and then from there I build the story around. And sometimes it ends up being the beginning of the story. Sometimes it's the end. Sometimes it falls
right,
out entirely, but it triggered something, right? But it's usually
right.
that. It's
Yeah.
usually something is happening somewhere, or I see something somewhere, or I read something, and then from that I go, "What if this?" And then if it's sticky, if I go to bed and I wake up in the morning and it's still there, then I write it down. Because otherwise I would just have. I'm not the type to have an idea, write it down, because otherwise I would just have like stacks of notepads.
Oh, you mean, hold on. Let me show you my notepad. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
me.
for me, it's like not every idea is precious that comes out of my head. I
Oh, no.
can't.
Yeah.
Right? I'm such a harsh critic for myself that if I look at something and I'm like, I'll embarrass myself with my previous thoughts.
Yeah.
For me, it has to be sticky. Like it has to be. I'm not gonna write it
Okay.
down. I'm gonna go to bed, and then. And I may have lost some brilliant ideas that way. Who knows? Sometimes because you never get the
Yeah.
same idea twice,
Yeah.
right?
I think mine comes from something my wife said to me that has stuck with me in a negative sense, But it was when we were doing this crazy venture. I don't know. Are you married?
Yeah, not legally. Yes, common
That
law.
was an
Common law.
interesting way to put that, but okay.
I
All
don't know
right.
why I hesitated. Yes, we've lived together for
Yeah.
2 decades. That's good. So
Okay. Yeah, I
yeah,
got you. But anyway, a
yeah,
significant other. But like we're in this venture together. We're like, hey, I'm making comic books. What? You know what I mean? So there's that conversation that happens, and then there's, hey, trust me, I know what I'm doing, which I don't. And so it's all these conversations that you have with your spouse or your
hmm
significant other. And one of them was where my wife goes, I think I have 3 or 4 like nice rough drafts. Artificial one had already come out. I was working on 2. I'm like working at it. I'm like, and I had a conversation with her where I'm like, I want to try and figure out a way to do this full time, which was the catalyst for what we mentioned with starting Bentbox, getting this thing going. That way I can maybe do this full time. So that was the, and she said something. She goes, man, see, I don't remember the words exactly. All I remember is how they made me feel. But it was basically like, are you sure you have enough ideas, like good ideas, like to do this full
yeah,
time? Are you going to be able to make another book? Basically, like you only have one good idea, right?
yeah.
That's it. And so that's what my brain heard. And that is why I am the person who, when I have an idea, I write it down immediately because I have to prove my wife wrong.
That's fair.
I have to be like, see, look, I have so
That's a hell
many
of a
ideas.
motivation. Yeah,
It really is though, because I'm like now I do, and this is honestly being vulnerable because the more I think about it, the more I think about I do have moments where I go, I don't think I'm going to ever have another idea or a book idea, or can I do this again? I don't think I can. I don't think I can. So I'm just going to go all in on this one. Like you have those thoughts in the back of your
yeah.
head, so I'm sticking to that motivator of I need to have ideas, and so now I write ideas down at every chance I get. So
That's fair.
that's my
That's fair.
reason.
Yeah, I haven't had that concern. I've had that concern with like how Kickstarters go, where I'm like, what if this is the biggest audience I'll ever get? What if it's the same people
Right? Yeah.
and nobody else cares, and it's just this is the
Yeah.
peak? It's like I can't sustain it, but like it needs to keep growing. So I've had that
Exactly.
concern. But yeah, in terms of the books and stuff, at least so far, I've felt like I'm the cliche of this is my best work yet. And you hope
Yeah.
that continues, that you always feel like you're improving. It's yeah, like my first one, I still love my first one, but this is levels beyond that. So I feel like if you're going in that direction, if you feel proud of your latest, like the like it's the best thing out there, then you're on the right track, right? Like you should always I feel like you should always feel like the latest
Yeah.
thing you did is the best you can do because arguably you would be getting better the more you're doing it, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be worried about that because just by doing it, you should be getting better, right?
Yeah, that has been my goal, and also to challenge myself more. Like I said, with Refuge being no dialogue, that was a challenge, and but I'm having fun with it because it's a challenge. That way, maybe I can say I can have it in my repertoire. Like I can write a comic with no dialogue. That way, if it presents itself in the future, I can go like, all right, I don't have any solid ideas. What could I come up with that doesn't need dialogue, and I can dip into that talent
Yeah.
set that I've developed because I, like you said, you're always leveling
hmm
up is the main idea. But yeah, I do worry about that sometimes, but at the same time, I have some like a part of me that goes, man, everything I'm writing is awesome. This stuff is good, and
You gotta quiet that guy down.
and and I know, dude, like I look at, I'm so happy with how Artificial One and Two turned out that I'm very happy with it, which is a place you want to
Yeah,
be because you don't want to be in that negative space of, man, this thing sucks, doesn't it? And I hope someone likes it. I love it.
that's
I think
good.
it's
That's
so
good.
good. I can't. I love. I issue three's already written. I love the roadmap I have in place for it. I'm very excited. But yeah, I you run into those people who are like, man, do you have imposter syndrome? You probably think what you did wasn't very good. You're just not doing. I'm like, bro, I have the opposite, and I need to figure out a way to get some imposter syndrome. Let me just say that because right now I'm the man, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just kidding. But I do have that every once in a while. I'll do that, and I'm like, man, I really like what I wrote, and I have to be like, dude,
Yeah.
shut up. It's probably
I
that good,
envy you.
which is
Yeah.
why I've done that. That's why there's a handful of people that I've sent my book to who I don't know because my mom thinks it's
Yeah.
great. What are you gonna do with that? And my wife really
Yeah.
likes it. So I've sent my book to a handful of people, and I've intentionally said, please pick it apart. Do me the favor of seeing what I'm not seeing. So I think that's also it's a vulnerable place to be,
It
but
is.
it's a trait that you need to develop. You need to be able to develop a trait to where if you're not seeing the negatives, be willing to allow other people to see it and tell you them, and then internalize them and understand. Because that's what I've said in all of my Kickstarters. If anyone's backed my Kickstarter out
Mhm.
there, I guarantee you've seen a message at the end that says, "Thank you so much for supporting. I look forward to you reading the book. Please give us honest feedback." I say that at the end of every message. I said, "Tell me what you like about it, what you don't like about it." I said, "Any and all feedback is valuable." I was like, "And it'll only make issue 2, 3, 4 better."
Yeah.
I was like, "So please rip it apart. Tell me you didn't like this part. Tell me you like that part." So
Yeah,
I try my best to
it's
do
smart.
that.
It's smart to do. Again, it's something that I don't know that comics folks do it because it's just such an investment. I think like it's you give a comic to someone and then they say you could have done this better. And I don't have the money to fix it. Right?
True. I've had that happen twice now where someone was like, "Why did you do that?" I was like, "Ah,
Yeah, and
crap.
that's in stone now. Sorry,
You're right.
right?
Yeah. We're just gonna have to let this
Yeah,
one
that
go."
does happen. Where in so I I write like other stuff too. I write like prose and that. So when I do my like writers groups and stuff like that, like there they slaughter you. Like that is
Oh yeah.
commonplace. That is what they and they do it like kindly. Like it's not like it's garbage. Like it's usually it's constructive. But if you ever need to be brought down a peg, join a
Yeah.
writers group.
Okay. Good.
They will certainly
Oh
tell
boy.
you everything that is wrong, even the stuff that you did on purpose.
Oh boy.
It's humbling. It's humbling, and then that's how you
Yeah.
build a comfortable imposter syndrome, right? That's how you really
Good.
get that ingrained.
Yeah.
That it's. I've been
All
told
right.
I'm awful, so I know this must be awful, but people seem to like it, so that's cool. I got one over on them,
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's true. Have you ever had an idea that someone shot down, not shot down, but was negative about, or said you should definitely change this, or anything like that, that you fought for because you just knew that that was what you wanted on the page, or to progress the story in a specific way, or how you wanted this character to act, even though they disagree that they shouldn't act that way? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I can't think of too many. At least, okay, so I've had that with the public,
Right. Right. Yeah.
again, or maybe in those writer groups where they're like, "You should have gone this way," which, frankly, isn't encouraged in writers groups. You're not supposed to dictate someone else's story. It's and say, "I don't
True.
understand why you went that way." Or when people say, "You
Right.
should have had them do this," I've had that, and that I
Yeah.
usually just flat out, "You missed the point."
I did this on
Yeah,
purpose.
or whatever. Like you're telling a different story than the one I'm telling. So I've had that.
Exactly.
But like in a collaborative setting, I'm usually pretty pliable. If somebody has a better idea,
Yeah.
like I have no, yeah,
Same.
kill
Yeah.
your darlings. That's the if somebody
Yeah.
has a better
Yeah.
idea, like by all means, do it. Like I've done that with my own work because, like I said, if it's not
Mm-hmm.
sticky, I don't keep it. So if I have an idea and I return to it 3 months later, and there's a scene I loved, like maybe it's the scene that inspired the whole thing. I'll cut it if it doesn't work. So yeah,
Yeah.
whatever gets you the best product at the end of the day, that's the way you go. But yeah, when you're talking about
Yeah.
getting feedback and that, sometimes you have to consider where the feedback is coming from as well, because
Yeah.
it's not all equal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm similar in that regard. I've had discussion, and that's why I like having a lot of like very in-depth collaboration with my artists, because I want them to feel like they're a part of the story, because honestly, without them, be one. So like when they give an opinion, I listen, and I will typically take their opinion over mine. That's honestly my
Likewise,
norm,
yeah.
is okay. Yeah, just because I trust them to know what they're talking about. That said, I've also had a handful of times where I'll give you a funny example. Gabriel, who I'm going to keep mentioning him all the time because I love him. He's the
Yeah.
best. He's my favorite guy to work with, and he's so talented. But we're working on this comic called Sundown that I mentioned about. It's about a superhero with Alzheimer's, and so there are some other things out there that have happened similar. I'm saying like other people have written similar, but it's a story. But anyway, there's a scene where he's coming home. I don't think he drew it yet. I was gonna say I wonder if I could pull it up for you because it'd be funny to see, but I don't think he drew it yet though. There's a scene where he's coming home from getting lumber. He just lives in rural Texas, him and his family, and he gets home, plops down 15 trees that he has just like this. It's like a
Mhm.
Superman-esque type character, um, and he sees his wife out there putting clothes on a clothes rack or a clothes hanger, clothesline. Sorry. And so he goes over there, gives her a good kiss, and I wanted this really nice romantic page, and he killed that. It's
Nice.
so good. That's right. He didn't draw the next page. The next page is a little. I wanted some flirt because I take some inspiration from my wife and myself.
Nice.
So I wanted to show this very human version of the superhero with his wife. And so she like says, dinner's on. We better hurry inside. James is almost home. Their son and all this stuff. He goes, all right, after you. And she like walks forward and he gives her a nice little tush. And so I wanted that because then the next panel is a little like giggle from her as she like runs towards the back door, and he chases her, and they have this dog. I just wanted to give this vision.
Yeah.
And Gabriel was like, I don't like the slap. He goes, people will think it might be like abuse. So he took it and I was taking it. And I actually had to have a long talk with him about how it's not abuse. It's a little slap. And he almost was like, I don't want to draw it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. I was like, all right, we got to figure this one out. But that was one of the ones that I fought for. I was like, I'm standing on this hill. Sorry, bud.
That's an interesting one.
Just a silly
I could see
one,
that because that's almost like a miscommunication more than a
exactly.
right. So I could
in a cultural thing. There's sometimes I've had a handful of like little cultural differences where they're like, no, this isn't right. I was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine here or whatever.
Yeah, I can understand that. That makes more sense to me. Like in terms of standing.
It's a silly one.
Yeah, fair. But that one's it's not like he's taking it a different way. Like in the sense of, I think he should really throw her inside the house, right?
Yeah. Or lift her up over the shoulder, which would be fine too. I would entertain that, sure. This was a very low stakes version of what I was talking about. I have had some, I just can't think of them off the top of my head, but I've had some where like whole character thing. Actually, I do have one. One of my friends was asking about Mary Cassatt in issue 2. It was one of those things where he didn't understand, which was better because it wasn't like a you should thing, which I think was just him coming at it. He understood that he shouldn't say, you should have done this. He was coming at it graciously, which was nice. But he basically said, I just don't understand the character very much. Is she from the States? Is she from London? Where is she from? And I was like, that's the point of her character. I was like, the point of her character is she's a world-traveled person. She picks up things. She has a lot of like colloquialisms that she uses from London, like little quips that she likes that she's picked up on. She still has a nice American side to her too. That's more like that New Yorker side because that's the kind of area that she grew up in. And so I was like, I'm playing around with her being
transatlantic
of the world. Yeah, like very worldly, and she can fit in anywhere, and she's quirky. And once I explained it to him, he goes, "Oh." Yeah. But like originally, he goes, she said something that like a London person would say here, and then she said something with a New York accent here. I was like, I get it. Why you're confused?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that was me like explaining. I was like, no, this was intentional. Yeah.
Now that I think about it,
all right,
I did have one experience like that. I'll be quick because I see Roberto's almost
up. Go for it.
So with an editor, this was with an editor, so that's a whole different discussion, right? Because they do have some influence on how the story goes. And it was a story about it was for an anthology, and it's about my like grandfather, influenced by my grandfather. It wasn't my grandfather, but influenced him coming from Italy. And he comes to Canada with his family, and it's him trying to find his way here. His brother tells him, come to Canada. It's beautiful. You'll be rich. He comes here, and he's just another place, right? Doesn't fix any of his problems. And I was being pushed, but the kids need more to do. And I'm saying, but it's not the kid's story. It's his story. And it must have been like 10 or 12 emails back and forth where it's, but really, the kids, the kids are window dressing. Like they're just there because he has, it's to show that he has responsibilities beyond himself. That's all they're there to represent. They're not actual characters. Then I was being pushed to, no, they should have arcs. And it's like, they're in like one page.
No.
Literally show that he did not come here alone. He's not a reckless man. He is in the sense of, but he brought people with him and now made it their problem. That's all this was meant to represent. And it was a constant like battle of the kids. What's their story? It was like, this isn't for them. It doesn't matter. So I've had that. It took me a while to get there, but yes, I have had that.
And you stand your ground. You know what you want and what the purpose of the story is. So like you sometimes have to die on that hill.
I will say it does help you at least get some clarity on what your story is. When you have to defend it
True.
and say, but this
Yeah,
is the
true.
point of it. At least
Yeah.
it does make it a stronger story in the end, even if it's not the most direct route, because you didn't have to think about certain things because you're being questioned on why you're going this way, and you have to come up with a very clear answer as to, I'm going this way, and here's all of the evidence to why, right?
That's a really good plus to it. Yeah, because I haven't really thought about it that way. Because yeah, you have defending it now. You have a better understanding of your own story.
Exactly.
You like this is why I'm
Yeah,
doing it.
it's not just I
Yeah.
like this. It's no, like this was set up here. This is why this is happening. This is the goal. This is the theme I'm going for. And you don't think about
Yeah.
it. Maybe you think about it, but you don't think about it as clear as when your back's up against the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does help
That's
to
good.
get challenged. But anyways, all right, Roberto's done.
Let's see it. Now we see it. But
Oh man, yeah, no, it turned out.
Yeah.
My goodness,
I can keep touching it, but
no,
I think it's
yeah,
done.
it's done.
it's good. The only thing I would say, and you don't need to touch it. The only thing I would say is panel 3. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have a foreshadowing of the big spider in panel in the last panel, even if it's something to where you can't even really tell. But if you are paying attention, you can tell it's a leg, eye. You know what I mean? That would be it.
Yeah, like in the
Other than
shadows, you
that,
see
perfect.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you, or even just one of its eyes in the top right corner or something like that, or maybe it's blocking some of that tree line on the top of the panel where you're not even really having, you're just blocking in a spider.
yeah.
Um, that would be my only change.
No,
Sorry.
it's good. It's a good change. I like it.
But otherwise, this is my nightmare, everyone. You're welcome.
It's been realized.
What a terrible idea this was. And I already told you I'm going to go to bed immediately after this and just have a fever dream.
Goodness. Fasted
So, cool.
fever dream.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait.
It's going to have a different kind of feel to it. I appreciate you coming on to share that with us.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, see, I like that because yeah, it gives just enough little that the spider's watching.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming. I know we had some
It
challenges
was awesome.
timing wise, but this is a really good talk, man. I really like all the
Yes.
stuff you're doing. I hope the whole nonprofit business side of things goes. It's a really cool idea, and I really like the concept behind it. And I'm
Appreciate it.
interested
Thank
to
you.
see your pitch as well. But
Yeah, I'll send you an email.
no rush.
I like the book, Steve. I like what I've seen, and I'm like, hey, this would look really good with the Bentbox logo on the front. Just gonna throw that out. Even though I do the Pesto comics, I like it. I'm a sucker for branding, so it's typically if I see a guy who's doing something and I like his book, and then I see his own branding on the front, I'm like, I'm not even gonna send an email just because I appreciate the hustle. He's putting time and thought into his brand, and I'm like, you deserve your brand. So yeah.
Always down to collaborate on something, though. It doesn't have to be
Cool. Sounds good.
right?
We can
Yeah,
figure
we
it
can
out.
figure something out for sure. Okay, let's wrap this up. It's been 2 hours plus. Okay, so we'll go backwards order. So I'm Adriano. You can find me at Pesto Comics, like we just mentioned, at Pesto Comics on everything, and then pestocomics.com. Always got stuff coming out. There's definitely something coming out right now. It's February. From Parts Unknown 2 should be out right now on Kickstarter in February. So yeah, look out for that. And then yeah, Roberto, what do you got going on?
I think I should have. It's already on, but it's not launched. It's the preview page of Realm Travelers, an anthology, fantasy anthology, with several artists. So it's gonna be fun.
Right on. And then Chris,
Sweet.
you've told us everything, but tell us one more time where we can find you, what you're up to.
Yeah. I've talked too much already. I've spoken too much. But Chris, co-founder of Bentbox, find us everywhere at just Bentbox Comics. That includes our website, bentboxcomics.com. That'll get you all the physical copies you can order from there. Please check out our shout out to Global Comics. Please check out our Global Comics page. You'll see, I think, 3 free comics on there. So if you really want to just get an idea of what we're about and what we're doing, go check out that, and you can do it for free. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, I should have Refuge, my newest Kickstarter, a book that I'm writing. It's going to launch maybe February, maybe March, around that area. So if you're viewing this, head over to Kickstarter and at least follow it. But it's going to be coming out soon. Refuge.
Awesome. All right, man. It was good to get to know you and chat with a while. We've seen each other online and that, but it's nice to actually chat for a while and get to know each other. So it's been a good talk for sure. And we'll talk more in the
A lot of
future
fun.
for sure. Maybe we'll have you on again too. Who knows? But
Sure.
until
Okay.
then,
Sounds good.
thank you very
It was
much.
fun.
And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Talk to you next time.
Bye bye.